Hello, everybody. Tony Bacigalupo here. It's noon on Monday, October 12th, and we were just talking about whoever's tuning in, whoever tunes into these things regularly after the fact, and how we get to be like your Monday, like morning show kind of vibe. And if you do, if you regularly watch the recording of this after the fact, please email me. I want to know that the trouble of posting these videos afterward is valuable to you because I'm curious. And but if you want to lurk, hey, that's cool. Lurking's cool. Um, I just came back from my annual physical. I got my flu shot. I got my blood work. And I feel like a soaked rat because I had to bike there in the cold rain. And so, yay for my immune system. I'll be taking some vitamin C after this. Anyway, let's do a little check-in, see how everybody's doing, see what we want to talk about today. And, we've been talking a little bit, we've been widening the lens in recent weeks to go outside of like necessarily direct co-working operational stuff and maybe talk a little bit wider about things that are going on for us, things that are going on in the world that are maybe germane to our work as leaders in the community. So I guess I want to say that as we introduce ourselves, feel free to widen the lens as you feel comfortable with in terms of what is alive and important for you. Because odds are whatever that is going to be relevant to other people on this call and to your community members as well. So just a little gentle invitation on that front. And I will send it around the horn. So we'll start with Meredith and then we'll go to Jen. Meredith, kick us off.
Hey there. So let's see. Last week I played teacher. And in our educational program, our facilitator was on vacation, so I held down the fort. And so that was kind of fun. I practiced multiplication tables, which I hadn't done in, I don't know how long. I had to double check a couple of my answers. But it was actually really good, because it gave me firsthand experience and perspective over the kids and what our facilitator's doing. And so while I was up there, I did like a day of base EDU and our social media, and it got some more eyeballs on it. So that was kind of fun. I'm hoping to kind of dig into that a little bit more and make some more social media and marketing content on it. We also signed up one more kid, so I'm super excited about that. We're offering a week trial, so both the parents and the kids can try the space, and that seems to be really beneficial. So once you kind of get into it and realize how much it's helping reset your day, hopefully folks will decide to enroll. So that was my week last week. Now I'm playing catch up, so I'm a little frazzled, honestly. Just kind of catching up on everything. So I have a couple to-dos to catch up on, but no major hot topics that I can think of, but I'm sure as we start talking, something might come to mind.
All right, cool. That's good. No major hot topics is fine by me, That's good. All right, cool. Thanks, Meredith. Onward to Jen and then Penny. Everybody ever call you Jenny?
Yeah. Actually, yes. Like all through grade school, junior high, and then when I got to high school, people just started calling me Jen, and I was like, oh, I like that a lot more. I'm still friends with the guy who did it. He was like this older, cool guy that I kind of like looked up to, and he's like, "Hey, this is Jen. Everyone say hi." And, and I was like, "Yes, hi, I'm Jen."
And who made the decision for one N?
I guess I did. I never thought it was like I never knew that two was an option. What about you? Did people ever call you Anthony?
I was Anthony until college.
Really?
Yeah, I was Anthony growing up. And so some old high school friends would still call me Anthony. When I went to college, I realized that it was a rare opportunity in my life to introduce myself in whatever way I wanted, and people would just accept it. I really didn't like my high school. Like, it was a bunch of jerks. And so when I got out of high school, it felt good to be able to create a new identity for myself. And so I just introduced myself as Tony, and they were like, okay, you're Tony. So
That's exactly what the transition from the Catholic school that I'd gone to, which was very small, to high school, which was very large. Like there were maybe only 3 people from the Catholic school that went to my high school. So it was like a sea of new people that were really cool, and see ya. Which
Love
sounds similar to your experience. Anyway, I had a really great call last week, midweek, with some developers for a local reuse project, let's call it. I had one with one group of developers in one suburb. This is with some people in a different location. It's actually a much bigger, much more ambitious project that I like a lot more. I mean, I can always do both, but if it works out that way. But yeah, it was great. It was supposed to only be a half-hour call, and we ended up chit-chatting for 60 minutes, and just a lot of really good synergy. I don't know if they're open to a management agreement, but I know some of their they want a mix of local and national tenants, and I know some of their national tenants have done management agreements in other arenas, so it's possible. And yeah, it's I think this is a good strategy for me. It's just going to the municipalities first and then having them loop me in with developers. So that is kind of my focus. When I am focused, I'm actually feeling super scattered. So this morning I was supposed to do one thing, and then I realized it's Columbus Day, and I was like, right, I want to do some social media supporting Indigenous people. And so I did a little bit of research on that and put something on our Instagram stories. I hope it's coming from an authentic place. I hope it's coming across that way, because I'm not Indigenous, and hopefully I did an okay job. I think that supporting the people of the tribes that we used to, the tribes whose land we're on, would be something really cool that we could do. And I'm not sure how we'll do it, but it's something I'd like to do. So today was the first step in that.
Great. Well, today's a good day for it. So great. Maybe we can talk a little bit more about what you've researched up to this point, what you found. And I'm curious about the management agreement thing. You brought it up recently, and I had some more questions about it. So we'll come back to you on both those things, Jen, if that's cool.
Sure.
Cool. And Penny, or shall I say Penelope? How did your name story go?
I've always been, well, my name is Penelope, but I've always been Penny, always been called Penny. My sister's Cassandra, so we had a family friend when we were kids who would call us Cantaloupe and Penelope, which I always kind of enjoyed. But no, I've stuck with Penny. Penelope always sounded too formal. But the people who call me Penelope have an extra sweet place in my heart. Like my grandmother called me Penelope, and my husband's brother calls me Penelope. And I kind of like that. I think just because my grandmother called me Penelope.
I like it. It's
Sweet name.
It's great.
My thought today, I just started looking into the possibility of offering insurance, health insurance to members. And I know it's super complicated. Jen, I found your correspondence on women who co-work, from like 2 years ago. It seems like it's super complicated, and it's unlikely for me to find any kind of a positive result. There's the woman in Canada who does it. I can't remember her name. I listened to her podcast the other day. So a woman in Canada got all co-working. It's available for co-working in Canada.
Oh,
Ashley
Yeah.
Proctor.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Co-hip.
Yeah. So, anyway, the only thing is maybe it would be a possibility in Pennsylvania. So I guess I'm going to ask my Chamber of Commerce, and locally, I guess I'll ask the SBDC, but it seems like nationally, there's not really something I can plug into. I hope you guys will correct me if I'm wrong.
I feel like somebody was talking about, maybe Jerome Chang was talking about that recently. It's certainly possible. I mean, there's like those associations of like, Christian insurance groups, and it's just like a bunch of church members paying into it. I think it's certainly possible. I feel like maybe Jerome was doing something like that. I don't know.
We've seen some like industry specific groups, organizations that have been able to provide it for their members at a specific rate. I'm curious, what inspired you to dig into that?
Well, so I've got a member right now who is thinking about leaving his full-time job, right? And so as a therapist here for Thrive, at Thrive, he works, I don't know, he works a ton. He has a full-time job and he does therapy here probably 20 hours a week. And he'd like to transition to being a full-time therapist, but he and his wife wouldn't have insurance otherwise if he didn't stay where he is, right? So I think it's the same issue that, some of your members have when they're working on their own.
And is there an issue getting one on the marketplace?
Well, I was hoping it would be cheaper, right? So my husband and I get our insurance through the marketplace. We pay $950 a month for just the two of us, and we have a deductible of like, I don't know, $7,000 or $8,000, right? So I was hoping that there would be something available that would be less than that.
Yeah, it's a good question. I've seen like corporate plans, like TriNet does it, and I'm trying to remember if one of those other ones like specializes in like small business kind of HR type stuff. I just don't remember off the top of my head which ones offer health insurance.
Women Who Co-work had a bunch of information. They talked about
Yeah.
TriNet and some others, and so I can certainly look into those. But it seems like there are some companies who offer they offer benefits, right? And then you got to sign up almost like for the whole benefit package. It's not like you can just pick and choose. And I don't have any employees right now. I mean, I pay my daughter as a whatever you call it, consultant or whatever, but I don't even have any employees. So obviously, yeah, co-working spaces often don't have that many employees, but we'd like to offer it to our members.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think if there's an answer, I don't know that there's a magic bullet. Like, it's probably the stuff you've discussed is probably as close as you can get. And, it might not hurt to talk to a rep or talk to somebody who's, worked with one of those companies and try to just find out a little bit more.
Okay.
It's been elusive. Like I've talked to the folks here at in New York at the Freelancers Union, and they had their own health insurance plan for a while. And then they stopped for some reason. I don't remember exactly why. But before they stopped even, it was expensive. And it was like, okay, well, it just seems like a kind of a, yeah, it's a conundrum beyond our scope, I think. But, I would love to see us make some headway in terms of learning about it and, from a policy perspective to understand, is there something we can advocate for that would make it easier? Even if we're saying, okay, we're not all employees of the same company, but if we go in on it together somehow, if we can get our own group plan or something, we can get savings the way that a regular company would. I don't know. It might not hurt to reach out to Ashley and just ask her latest thinking on the topic, since she has researched domestic, like United States stuff, and she has been talking with people in the U.S. who are working on it. So she would at least maybe know who to talk to.
That's a good idea. I'll reach out to her.
Yeah. And, the other thing is we've got, post-election, a lot of, the winds blow differently. So you're going to potentially have a whole lot of new people coming in who are going to be looking for policy wins, things like that. If I were feeling more politically ambitious, I would say that we could be trying to find ins with potential members of a new administration who might be looking for a win for small business, because new people coming in means there's new openings, new entry points. And this is totally off topic, but I want to mention it anyway. When I was this was maybe 2012, I was invited through meetup.com to an event at the White House, not the building, but the grounds, one of the adjacent buildings, for leaders from Meetup organizers. Basically, Scott, the founder of Meetup, had some connections at the White House, and they convened this event of local leaders. And they basically said, we at the White House have a really big bullhorn, but you, the local leaders, are the people on the ground who actually get stuff done with the people face to face. And so we really count on you in terms of, making change in the way that we want to see. And so, they really made it clear that they wanted to be supportive of local organizers, and they wanted to, use their resources to try to support successful local programming. And I was very inspired by it. I wasn't in a position where I could really take advantage of the contacts that I had made through that, but potentially a lot of those people or people like them are going to be back in charge in a few months. So maybe we will be in a position to make a push in some way, a bit of a PR push amongst the co-working people to work with some of the folks in the new administration and get a win. But that's maybe not for today.
Let me add one more thing, because this was, I had someone come who wanted to become a member.
Mm-hmm.
And I personally felt like he would not be a good member. He's going to talk too much. He gives way too much personal information, different kinds of things, right? So I certainly had this sense. And so I asked some people on my advisory board, and one of the women had worked with him, and he said, lots of inappropriate stuff to the young women that he worked with.
Mm.
And so I, sent him an email. It was a short little email, but it was big for me to figure out how to just say no to someone. And so now that I've done that, I feel better to know that I can, and I'm going to, when I think it's really important.
Good. Yeah, no, it's an important thing to break through with, and once you've done it, you get a little bit more comfortable with it. It's like a lot of things in life, and so yeah, I'm glad you're able to get through it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, thanks, Penny. And hopefully we keep that conversation going and get somewhere. Maybe Ashley can help provide some direction. All right, cool. And then over to Lynn. Lynn, how's it going over with you?
Oh, well, I must be in the same place you are, because it's pouring rain and miserable and chilly
Oh,
today.
Yeah, it's yucky.
It's really yucky. So we've been basically concentrating. We're having a big event on October 21st, which is a listening event that it's called Reimagining Women Supporting Women During COVID. And it's we're addressing all the issues around how life has changed so much for women in the workforce since COVID has happened. That's a big thing in the news about women. We had finally gotten to the point where we were half 50.3% of the workforce right before COVID, and right away it went down to 47%, and now it's even gone down further because a lot of women stepped back from what was going on in their lives to deal with kids or everything else that was going on at home. So we're having an event that night, and I was going to offer this it is a free event. If you think anyone would be interested, your members would be interested in this. Tony, a lot of our programming is geared towards women because we're a women-focused co-working space. So I was a little hesitant to put it into the group. But if you think that would be something that people would want to be, we're going to do. It's facilitated. We're going to have a bunch of coaches. We're doing breakout rooms, and we have about 75 people signed up already for it. So it's a virtual event, but it could be good to have some discussions. So that was one of the things we're focusing on. I also was emailing with Tony earlier. There's another event we're having that's a smaller event, and that's we have a member that's a Brene Brown trained facilitator, and she is doing a workshop for us on the gifts of imperfection, which was a book that Brene wrote around 10 years ago. That event is not free, and Tony and I were discussing I could give a 20% discount to everyone, your members, but we didn't know whether, trying to lead with the spirit of generosity, but this is this woman's proprietary workshop, so I don't know if we really want to give it all out for free. I would like to hear what everyone has to say about that. I'm more than happy to share both of those links with us, and it just links to our website. You can sign up. And the one that costs money, if you the coupon code is GIFTS with GIFTS, but I'll put that in the as well in the follow-up email. So what does everyone think?
I think it's completely appropriate to charge.
You do? Okay. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I run a women in business group here in Kentucky, and so that's a perfect avenue and platform. And I'd love to be able to share and support any of your virtual events because that's right in line with a lot of the hot topics that we're talking about.
Okay, great.
It seems like that to me also, just that if we can share events, whatever the cost is, then it's still a win because then we have more events to share and potentially more people in our events. So that can still be a win.
Okay,
Exactly.
great. All right. So, Tony, is there I should just email this group or the group as a whole with the links to, how do you want me to handle that?
I would say drop a link in the chat here, just so everybody
Okay.
here has it. But then
Okay.
also send an email to the whole group so that everybody else who's not here can see about it as well.
Okay.
Yeah, great. And how are things otherwise, Lynn? In terms of the how's business? How's the community?
So businesses actually, since I don't know if I told you guys, two things have happened. Our landlord negotiated with us, believe it or not. Yeah, only for 1 month so far. We're still ongoing negotiations, but he at least came before in the beginning. He wouldn't even talk to us. So that's at least he's realizing that this is not going away. That's number one. Number two, we had a whole bunch of people join. The last 15 members joined in the last month, but not to co-work. They joined to be a part of the community and come to our events. And we think that, winter is coming, that people are getting very nervous about what the winter is going to be, what the hand we're going to be dealt with during the winter. And people want to get set up with some kind of community and connection, and really are putting the money where their mouth is, I guess you want to say. But we were surprised because last year at this time, it was not as busy as it is now. September was actually slow for us. And I think we thought it was because and October was really the big month. So it kind of is reversed now. September was very big and October is a little quieter. So we don't know what it is, but we're happy.
I'm curious, what's the I know that it's women, but what's the demographic of the members who are joining? Are they aged,
all over
married,
the place?
all over?
We have a 70-year-old member, and we have new right out of college. So it's, even though we're kind of promoting towards men and more, we're in the suburbs, so it's more like, bring your spouse and you can get a discount kind of thing. We haven't had a lot of men come through or have any interest. We have one guy that's here. He comes in every day, but he was working out of a coffee shop in town for that. So he's thrilled that we're here. The coffee shop's closed. So it is, I would say generally most of the people that joined are half and half. They want community, but they're really looking to promote their business. Like off the top of my head, we had 2 dentists join, a person that is a physical therapist that has her own business, a woman who's a florist that's now doing it out of her house. It's because her shop closed. They all want promotion for their business. So we were, out of the, say 15 that joined, I would say 10 of them are promoting businesses or the non-for-profits they're involved in. They're on the boards of nonprofits, and they want to help get word out about their non-for-profits. So we're trying to figure out a way that we can come up with some kind of marketplace or some event where people can just have 5 minutes to say, this is what I do. Here's my website, come, like a marketplace sort of thing. That's all in the works.
That's a really good idea. I wonder if that's something I should pursue, because we've actually had a number of particularly women cancel their virtual membership. We have very few virtual members right now and they all say, I'm so busy with my kids right now, I can't. So but I wonder if the networking aspect would be something to tap into.
We have a lot of,
we used to be 50, we used to be like 70% women, 30% guys, and now it's 50-50.
Yeah. Oh wait, Tony, you're muted.
It makes sense. We have to think about just where are your members' heads at right now, and for some of them, for one reason or another, getting more business is almost always at the top of the list, regardless of pandemic. and a co-working space is great for that. So being able to facilitate business between your members is always a win if you can find a way to do more of it. And that actually brings up a thing that I don't think we've talked about it before, but it's actually a really, really useful community activity that it might be worth trying, especially for you, Lynn, which is the asks and offers. So, Jen, you're familiar with it. So, asks and offers is such a powerful thing. We actually had members at my old co-working community who tried to turn it into a whole startup, and we've played with it a lot. So the idea of asks and offers is once a week or so, you put out a solicitation to say, what do you need help with? And what are you offering the community that might be helpful to them? And that could be literally anything. It could be, I need help with my website. It could be, I'm offering help in terms of my profession, or that I have like a new event coming up or whatever it is. But basically, it's kind of a way to like solicit people's, if you could like ethically spam everybody, what would you tell them or ask them? And then you like collect that in a form, and then you aggregate it, and then you turn it around and spit it back out in a digest. So you could do this if you did this in like a Facebook group, you would just have it where everybody would just comment on it, and reply to the thread. Or if you did it over email, you would have people like fill out a form, and then you'd copy that back into a newsletter format. So that I've found to be super valuable when you've got people who are looking to do business with each other and might, just have some self-promotion to do or that kind of thing. And it's pretty easy to implement. I'll see if I could find an example for you can use.
That'd be good, because I sort of zoned out for a second. It sounds like you said something really good. Just be honest.
I love you did warn us that you're scattered. You're scattered.
I'm doodling, and it's just like
That pretty much sums up Mondays, though, right? You're like, what? Wait, something just happened. Where was I?
I mean, it's technically a holiday, so this meeting isn't even really happening. Oh, are we into the like can't tell if we're laughing or crying phase now? So I'll say Jen, basically just collecting people's like what they need help with or what help they're offering, and then turning it around and sending it back out to the community. And you could do that either in terms of like people just reply to a comment thread with their responses, or you aggregate it and send it out, which gives you a little editing power.
October is it's like Women Entrepreneurs Month or something like that, and I've wanted to do a local guide of women business owners forever. And I wonder if we could just do something quick and dirty like this, and like put it out there, and whoever responds in the next week will just, like, not just Day House members, but
it makes a ton of sense. Now's a great time to take advantage of something like that, and people love themes. It's so silly, but it's like, oh well, it's such and such month, then it gives you an excuse to kind of frame why you're doing it then, and I think also what's useful about that is it hooks into like media narratives. So if somebody's writing an article about what's going on for this themed month, you're giving them something that fits into a predetermined editorial narrative that they're looking for stories on. So it's always good to plug into that.
God damn it! Why couldn't I have had this idea 2 weeks ago?
Well, the long-term scheming is what big holiday or themed event things are coming up in the coming months. Like, it might not hurt for us to get like a curated list together of not just every event, but like the ones that we think could be actionable or related. and then look ahead together to say which ones could we plan for now, for November, December, January, etc. That might be fun.
And Women Entrepreneurship Day is in November, on November 19th.
It's my
So
husband's birthday.
I have that marked, and it just happened to be the day of our monthly meetup for my women's group. And I was like, it's perfect. It's also Global Entrepreneurship Week. So you have some time if you want to build off.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Little bit of breathing room.
That is amazing. And like I said, it's also my husband's birthday, so I will not forget. Well,
What was the date again? November 19th, did you say?
Yeah.
November 19th? 19th.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then that full week is Global Entrepreneurship Week, which we in Kentucky do a lot of collaborative events with a lot of the startups and whatnot. But it's a global thing. There's a website if you just Google it. They have a whole branding package thing, so you can utilize that if you want to do events. This year, we're part of there's different hubs in Kentucky within the entrepreneurship community and that work with the economic development cabinet. But this year we are just doing it statewide. So each hub is picking a day to do one event, and then the whole state will promote, because it's all virtual events. So it's an easy way to get a bunch of people involved without having to travel. So I'm hopeful it'll actually be really fruitful this year.
Nice.
I'll find that link and send it to you guys.
So in terms of, we've got about 22 minutes. I know we wanted to talk about both the things Jen brought up. Does anybody else have anything pressing they want to talk about while we have a little time?
I did think of one thing.
Yeah.
If you don't mind. So we have a member who has our lowest tier of membership, and he uses it pretty much to be able to get the member rate for our meeting spaces, and he books day sessions with his clients. And he recently had to cancel last minute because his client tested positive for COVID.
Ooh.
So I was like, well, normally we require 48 hours notice, but because of that, thank you, don't bring them in the space.
Yeah.
I'll give you a refund. But also I gave a little caveat of please wait to reschedule until your client has been symptom free, and then 2 weeks after the fact. I was like, do not bring him into the space. And he just reached out to me today and he was like, hey, can I book the space for Thursday? And I was like, sure, it's available. Who's your client? Trying to politely be like, is this the same person? Because this hasn't been 2 weeks,
Yeah.
And he didn't tell me. And so I had to basically upfront ask him, is this the same client? Are you rescheduling the same client, or is this a new person?
Yeah.
Because to me, the liability of all of that, it just makes me cringy and stressed out just thinking about it. But it felt like he was trying to skirt the question, and I could totally just be reading into this.
Yeah.
I don't know if y'all have come across that type of interaction yet, where you have to, I don't know, I'm struggling to basically say sorry, Lynn, were you gonna say something?
Yeah, it's you have to police your members, which is, we haven't had that because to be honest, we don't have a lot of people coming in yet. It's more, we have the same 12 frequent flyers that come in every week and that haven't branched out, but kind of on the same topic, I had to just do for the space a playbook of, in case someone calls and says, I was in yesterday and now I'm positive for COVID, and what the steps that we have to take to do to close it down. Because we have 2 young women that work at the front desk that are still in college. So I wanted to be able to say when they're in, that they don't panic and they have something they can open and say, first step is this, second step is this. But in researching that, the weird thing is, if you have someone that came into your space, if you shut your space for 7 days, then you don't have to do any extra cleaning.
Yeah.
Because that virus doesn't last that long. So you don't have to have the carpet cleaned, the walls cleaned, fogged, all that stuff. You just have to wipe off the surface of what you would do anyway. So we made the decision that if we ever get someone that comes in with a positive case, that we're just going to shut down for 7 days, because we think it's safer for the staff, but also we think that our members would like to see that because
Yeah.
it makes them feel better knowing that we would shut down. You know what I mean? So I think when you you have every right to kind of ask this guy, because it's you're not only you're protecting all the other people in your space. Not, and if this guy is not going to do the right thing, you know, and bring the guy in earlier. But I mean, I
Yeah.
guess you would probably be 14 days, you'd be okay, because, you know, 14 days seems to be like the quarantine time for people. According to the CDC, if they go to any of these states, they have to wait 14 days before they can come out of their house. Like, if that client's 14 days quarantining, I think you should be fine, right?
Yeah. Well, my hesitation here and like why I'm a little iffy about it is because like he only uses the space for meetings. And so the people coming in and out are guests in the space. So if it was a member, like I know all our members and I know what they do, and I have a sense of like I can read them and I can predict kind of like the behavior, but like I have no idea what any of these people are like. And my interaction with this one member is he only comes in for meeting spaces. And so, and there's been a little bit of like, it's, you know, it's been a little challenging, but not like that challenging of a relationship. But it made me nervous because it seemed like he was trying to do it without having to say like who it is. And hopefully I'm just like reading way too much into this and that's not it.
But,
And
okay, wait a second, because the way we go away, so we can all have insight and inner wisdom, and the way we lose our grasp on our inner wisdom is by second guessing ourselves. And so I can't say what you're doing right now, but it is that second guessing. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. Maybe I'm whatever. All that second guessing kind of pulls us away from like our intuition. And if your intuition says that there's something going on, then you're likely to be right. And, you know, maybe you want to, you know, be sure he answers that question before you, you know, let him in, or somehow be insistent with him. Even though we don't like to be insistent, it seems like we shouldn't have to be insistent. Why would someone lie about, you know, there's all those things that make us really kind of resent that we have to, it's like parenting. That's what I hated about being a parent. Like, you know, what the hell, we've already talked about this and you know what the standards are around here. And so it's like parenting in that way. So trust your sense, your guide, your whatever, inner wisdom.
yeah, I appreciate that. And I mean, that was my gut reaction. I was like, ooh, I bet he's bringing the same guy back in. Like, I need to have a like verbal confirmation that this is not the same person before I book you. Otherwise, no. I mean, it's not worth the $200 or whatever for the meeting space that day. Like,
Yeah.
to have to shut down or, you know, have to go through all the other things.
Well, and
When-
yeah.
I was going to ask, when did you last talk to him?
So originally, they had reserved the space last week on Thursday and canceled because of the client testing positive, and he just asked to book for this Thursday. So not even a week.
Yeah.
And you asked him like right away, and he still hasn't responded to you.
Correct. Because I tried to phrase it like, "Hey, we have it on the board. Like, what's the client name? I can put it on there." And he goes, "Oh, we'll just do this company." And I was like, "Okay, now I need to actually ask what I'm trying to learn here, because it seems like you're not being forthcoming about it. Because previously he told me who his clients were, so I could put on there." So I was just like, And I don't know. I don't know if you guys are feeling this too, but it's just like I'm tired of doing this.
Yeah,
Like,
totally.
the
And
constant sense of
I think
momming.
I think it's totally okay, Meredith, to say like, hey, you know, just wanted to get, you know, written confirmation when you're emailing him or whatever. Email is probably best. You know, hey, just need written confirmation. This is not the same client as last week, right? Like, I would just ask straight up.
And if it is the same client, we'd be happy to book you in 2 weeks. Or, you know, whatever. You can always just say it in a nice way. We'd be happy to book you in 2 weeks, but we won't book you, you know, until the 2 weeks have passed.
Yep.
Yeah, that's helpful.
And yeah, always offering people an out is really important, you know, and you can always kind of fall back on like policy to say like, look, this isn't about us having like a differing opinion, not to say this to the person, but to have it in your head that like, it's not about whether, you know, what I think about what's going on or what you think or what we think is safe or not. It's just, we've made the determination that this is what we need to do in order to feel, in order to provide a safe environment for everyone. These are just the guidelines that we're following based on what we've been told are requirements. And So we just have to dot our I's, cross our T's, and it's policy, right? So, we're not trying to have like a medical argument, it's
Yeah.
just the way it is. Um, uh, yeah.
Okay.
And look, like, we can't control everything about everything, right? You don't know who these clients are. That person, you happen to find out that person tested positive. Other cases we might not ever find out what's going on for real. So to some extent, you only have so much you can do if you're going to operate your space and let your customers bring in clients. Like, there's going to be some risk exposure there. But when we know for sure somebody tested positive recently, we
Yeah.
can't. That's exactly what we're trying to do, is mitigate risk. So, like, we're probably, relatively okay if we reduce our risk as much as we can. But that means stuff like this, we gotta say no. So,
Okay,
um,
thank you.
so, Jen, we talked about, there were two different things you brought up, and we don't need to talk management agreement this week. We could talk about it another week. But what was the other topic you brought up? Damn.
Land acknowledgement.
Yes, thank you. So, do you want to just tell us a little bit about what you've researched so far, and kind of what your thoughts are on the topic?
Yeah. And honestly, I was my first experience with land acknowledgement was at Juicy Canada in 2019. Yeah,
Toronto?
that was like 8 years ago, right? Sure feels that way. And so Ashley Proctor, who was running Juicy Canada at the time, she started the whole thing off by first doing a land acknowledgement, and I had never heard one of those before. And it's basically a statement that acknowledges, in Canada they call them the First Nations, or the indigenous people, what tribes used to be on the land that we are now occupying, and it's typically unceded territory that was stolen. And so that was my first acknowledgement, or first interaction with that. I've kind of like looked into it since then. And I just feel like today is, Columbus Day is a day that is fraught in controversy right now. And I don't want to speak for the Italian American community, but I know that a lot of Italian Americans feel a lot of pride on this day. And so yeah, anyway, but I decided to do a land acknowledgement kind of in our Instagram stories. So what did I do? So I found this website, and if you want to see this, just go to I'll drop our Instagram in here, .com/day-house.work, and it's in our stories today. But I started out with, this is probably gonna be backwards. And it's it's backwards, but there's
It's
that
backwards
website
for you, but it's okay for us.
Okay. It's nativeland.ca. And so you can go to that website and find out what land you're on. There's also a number that you can text. You can text that number with your zip code, and a bot will answer you. And then this is what I wrote for us. So Dale's co-working in Highland Park, Illinois, gathers on unceded land of the Potawatomi, Kickapoo, Miami Sioux, and shit, I made an error. Oh well. We acknowledge their community, their elders, and their future generations. We seek to engage these tribe members to amplify their voices and support their works. Okay, well, I have to redo that slide because I made a boo-boo. But anyway, so that is that's what we did today. And yeah, I'm just interested to reach out to these local folks and see where it goes.
Great, Jen. Great. I think even we kind of learned this with the racial justice conversations from over the summer, but just getting even a requisite amount of education on the topic, I feel like, is so valuable, especially as community leaders, because we are in a position to kind of be arbiters of some of like what other people learn, from us. And so for us to just even have a base level of awareness means, we can talk about this from an informed place when our members ask or if we bring it up. So I'm glad that you've got that going. Um, cool. And do you anything else in that direction that you're going to do, or any other conversations you've been having with members about this in general?
Um, no, but we are trying to keep some kind of a social justice thing on the program at least once a month. It's been some months it's been harder than others. We're lucky that we have a member that's really she's a filmmaker, and that's kind of like her focus. So sometimes we'll just piggyback on what she's doing. We've actually done that twice now. But it's just tough, you know. It's tough to do it and do it authentically and do it right, especially when you are a, you know, white cisgendered person.
Yeah. Yeah, understood. Has this topic come up in any of the other communities here? Anybody else here? Or anybody else doing anything in that direction on this day or at events?
We have 4 times a year have social impact panels, and we're planning one in November around education inequities, and that kind of touches on lots of things going on in the social justice arena too. But it's the same sort of thing that you said, Jen. We're very cognizant that there's 2-3 white women run the space, 3 and 2 of us are middle aged, so not a lot of people want to hear from us, and so we are really hyper focused on who is presenting and who's going to be on the panel, and it takes a lot of it's a lot of emotion around it. It's a lot of thought. A lot of things happened this summer that were really hard, and you know, we're all kind of doing our best, but we are really aware of what's going on. So it's important. We've got to push through. We have to make sure that we get these on the calendar and do them, because it's easier not to. It's easier just to get back in bed and get under the covers, right?
Yeah.
Totally. And you're like, you know, am I going to be criticized for not doing it the right way? And am I don't know. It just it opens up and then you're like, well, you know, that criticism is nothing compared to what other people have actually had to live through, and it's an emotional soup.
Mm-hmm. Right. When the George Floyd thing happened, we all reached out personally to all of our members of color, and to varying degrees of success. It was hard, and we did it, and we heard a lot of stuff back that we didn't necessarily think we were going to hear. So yeah, it was hard. Mm-hmm. It's really hard.
Well, it's one of the things that comes with running a business of any appreciable size, and certainly any community, is that we just there's no avoiding the topic, the subject matter. You know, we need a certain amount of understanding and education about it, and that's just the nature of this time in history. And fortunately, this is an opportunity for us to perpetuate that education as community leaders. And yeah, there's some exposure and some fear to be experienced. But what I found is that if I try to approach things from a place of genuine curiosity and willingness to be vulnerable, willingness to be corrected, to be open to being wrong, and being educated further, people tend to be very supportive, in the sense that, you know, basically compared to the people who are willfully ignoring everything that's going on, you know, I think, I don't want to say it's the thought that counts, but to some degree, you know, as long as you're not being performative about like trying to win points or gain attention or whatever, you know, if you're exhibiting a genuine interest in trying to do the right thing, you're on as solid ground as you could expect to be on.
Well, that's my big. It's like there's nothing worse than some inauthentic brand. It's like, you know, Mars Candy wishes you a happy whatever MLK Day. You know, it's just like, I think it can ring really hollow sometimes when brands do this sort of thing.
Yeah. So, you know, as long as you stay on that side of it, I think that's healthy. And but it's probably also an invitation that if we don't feel comfortable with our level of education, then maybe that means it's time to get a greater level of education. And there's never been more resources than now. So, we don't really have an excuse for not getting to a level of competency that we feel confident about. And, anything that we're struggling with is probably something other people are writing about, how to deal with. And so, to some degree, this is just a thing that, it's on us to get good enough at it that we feel like we're on solid ground, and not just for fear of avoiding retribution, but out of a genuine values-based desire to be community leaders. Mm-hmm. And to recognize that, co-working spaces create social change, whether we do it intentionally or not, by virtue of the fact that it's setting an example for the future of work. Nobody worked in a co-working space 15 years ago. And, post-pandemic, we might have more people working in co-working spaces than not. So, that's probably an extreme characterization. But you get what I'm saying is that we're laying the groundwork, and you're going to see a lot of the employers of the future, the people who are building the next Amazon or whatever, those people are working in co-working spaces now. And so the example we set, sets the example for them when they're going to be managing their spaces. So, really there's a legacy opportunity here to set an example for other people about what an inclusive workplace is that, I think it's an awesome opportunity.
I worry about that a little bit. Oh, sorry.
I was just going to say also, like, we've got this group. So if there's, a heat check you want to do, if there's a correspondence you want to send, you want to make sure that you're communicating in a way that feels good. We can all be a little bit open with each other about it and help each other out. And I'm very, very careful with language and all of those things. So I try to look at the, threading the needle of talking about a sensitive topic. So really, this goes for anybody in general, conflict resolution wise or whatever. If you've got like a sensitive correspondence that you want to try to talk through, send it to the group or send it directly to me, and then we can work through it together. What were we going to say, Jen? I'm sorry.
This is something that I've also been thinking about a lot as we look to expand to more locations, because right now we are in like the naviest blue area of one of the darkest blue areas of the Chicagoland area, and it just gets more purple the farther west that you go, and then eventually red. And it's okay to make statements like this here where we are right now, and everyone's like, yeah, right on, but I don't know how it's going to be received. And I almost feel like it's important to establish that now while we're in our safe space.
Yeah.
So people kind of know what we are and who we are.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. It's a really important thing for all of us to have a strong handle on, because we're in a hyper polarized kind of situation right now, and we have to deal with the implications of that in a community setting where people talk to each other. So, and where people talk, about you to each other. And so there's a lot of pressure right now. There's pressure to take very clear stands on things. There's pressure to maybe not take a stand on something for fear of pissing off half your members. And there's probably, there's a lot of different schools of thought around it. Personally, I think that, your two choices in my mind, your two best choices are, go whole hog at what you believe and then let people self-sort how they align with it or not. Which is to say that, you could stand for what you believe in, but still welcome people with differing views, as long as you all agree to a similar kind of value system in terms of how you communicate, which I think is cool. And if a Trump supporter wants to walk into a co-working space that has Black Lives Matter on the window and they're willing to be adults about it, then we're all willing to be adults about it. Great. Awesome. Or you can decide, I don't want those kinds of people here, so you're not welcome here. It isn't safe, like whatever that line is. But I think the other thing is trying to find a way, and it takes some work to get there, is to say, that you're recognizing and acknowledging what's going on, and you're supporting healthy dialogue around the topic. And where you find it appropriate, you're, making statements or taking a stand. But mostly, you are trying to demonstrate to people that you want to create awareness of the fact that it's a conversation, it needs to be happening, and that we all have something to learn, and that you're trying to create a safe environment for difficult conversations to be had, and for differing views to be something that people can have without it being destructive. And so, I don't know exactly how that kind of vibes out separately, but I think there's a way that you can be very supportive of the different movements that are happening, without putting stickers on the window that might make some people feel uncomfortable, if you know what I mean. But yeah, I think it's something we have to put a lot of thought into, honestly. We have to put some work into this because it's important, it's scary, and it's an opportunity, and we can't avoid it. And I don't think we should, even if we could. Yeah. Heavy. I know we're over time, but I did want to ask real quick, what everybody's doing as far as like getting out the vote, voter registration, that kind of thing. Are any of you doing anything to promote to your communities or supporting any initiatives for voter registration, anything like that?
We're not doing voter registration, but we are, I think, going to do, if you bring in proof that you voted, you can co-work for free in a certain time period. We were going to do just one day, but because COVID, we're going to stretch it out over a whole week and limit the number of seats per day.
Cool. That's great. Love it.
We've been advertising in our weekly newsletter just how you can register, where to go, the procedures in town, and just getting out information.
Cool.
Yeah, we've been doing that for like 2 months now. So.
And Penny, I know you're in a swing state, so I'm going to call you out.
Yeah, no, I haven't done anything as far as my community goes. I volunteered to work the polls, and they apparently don't need me, but I'm on the list to work the polls, but I haven't done anything for my community. You guys are making me think maybe I should.
Well, so one suggestion, Penny, and just in general is, and this is just off the top of my head, there's nothing strategic about it. Obviously, there's a million things you can do, a million websites, all of those things to kind of like bully people into voting and all of that, which is great. And even like soliciting volunteering, maybe, hey, so there's a couple things I think we could do. One is just to ask, like, hey, who in this community is doing something active around, like, getting out the vote, phone banking, anything. And even kind of like the way we talked about the asks and offers, just to kind of get out there and find out, like, who in my community is active, who could be a resource for other people who are curious, And then the second piece is simply creating some education to say, like, does anybody here have any questions? If anybody here is trying to get to the next step in their process of voting, I know this year's a little bit crazy, let's start a discussion about it. If anybody has a problem or a question, or they're confused or frustrated, is anybody having any issue with the process? Bring it up here so we can all support each other. I feel like one of the things we can do, if not be proactive about like pushing people to phone bank or help people with registration, is to just demystify the process a little bit, and give people ways to help answer each other's questions about how it goes. So maybe a suggestion for something to play with this week. Do we know the Pennsylvania voter registration deadline?
The voter registration deadline, I don't know when the registration deadline is, but it's coming up real quick, the deadline to request a ballot. So a lot of people have requested a ballot. We've been strong arming our kids into voting. So they're in their, they're 22, 25, and 26, and they live in different cities, but they're still voted, registered here. So my husband's like, don't change your citizenship to another state until after the election, because we want you voting in Pennsylvania.
Yes.
So our kids are voting by, ballot.
Yes. October 19th. So a week from today.
October 19th.
Yep. So get cracking.
All right, everyone, I have to hop, so I'll talk to you guys all later.
Thanks, Lynn. Yeah.
Take care. Bye.
Thanks, Lynn.
Good
You guys,
day.
I'll see you next week.
All right, y'all.
Everyone.
It's been real. Thanks so much. Take care of yourselves. See you in a week.
Thank you.